American right-wing crackpots in relation to Canada come in different sizes. Some of them think we're communists. Tucker Carlson's always saying we should be invaded and taken over, like Tucker Carlson, reminds me of a certain word that should describe him. But Marjorie Taylor Greene was on the rag last week. And I didn't want to do a podcast because it was April Fool's Day, but I had to leave it go. Now, according to published reports on CBC at a congressional hearing on border crossings with Canada, the States, and Mexico, MTG, I'm not going to say her name 3 times fast because, Beelzebub could show up. She was complaining about Canada's visa policy, about Mexicans traveling to Canada, and because of it, she thinks we're helping Mexico invade the States. Now, according to CBC, the idea that Canada might be assisting an invasion of the United States by another country on the continent was a minor topic for about 5 seconds at the hearing. This comment came from a member of the United States Congress during a congressional hearing in Washington. Now, MTG, she's a gleeful flinger of partisan bongs or finger pointer. It came during a hearing organized for Republicans titles Biden's growing border crisis, debt, drugs, and disorder on the northern border. She used her spot in the committee hearing to draw attention to the fact allows Mexicans to travel into the country without a visa. And she alluded to an increase in Mexicans being stopped trying to get to the U.S. between ports of entry, with U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials reporting 1,604 such incidents at the northern border in the first 4 months of this year, compared to 882 in 2022. It is extremely concerning and dangerous to the United States of America's national security that Canada's immigration policy allows Mexicans to travel to Canada without the visa. It seems that Canada wants to participate in Mexico's invasion of the United States. They end up coming in the United States. Well, not really. Some Mexicans, they shop, they visit relatives that work here. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not known to about 95% of Canadians. Most people in the States know we're friends with the States. Marjorie Taylor Greene, like I said, whoever has the biggest, sound bigger, it's comparable to hockey fans banging on the glass. I've seen this before. It was a game between Pittsburgh and Toronto. In Pittsburgh, and Toronto was ahead, I think it was 7-2, and they were still banging on the glass trying to stop Austin Matthews from scoring. The game is done. Now, there has indeed been an increase in migrants entering the States through Canada. Republicans have started raising it as an issue, part of their campaign against what they call the Biden administration's lax border crossing. Now, a Democrat called the hearing a waste of time and said it would be better spent on serious problems. This manufactured northern border crisis is how Glenn Ivey, a Maryland, referred to it. There's nothing going on with respect to Canada that merits them being treated like some kind of rogue state. They're a good working partner with the states. Now, several Republicans, other than Taylor Greene, went out of their way to point out that the issue wasn't with Canada. The chair of the hearing, Dan Bishop of North Carolina, corrected Greene, saying they're friends, not anything more other than that. The problem, several Republicans said, was that the northern border is severely understaffed. Barely 10% of U.S. Border Patrol agents are stationed along the vast Canadian frontier, and even among that limited pool, many are seconded for stints at the busier Mexican border. The head of the U.S. Border Patrol Agents Union, Brandon Judd, said it's impossible to patrol the northern border. He said there's only one agent every 30 miles, 48 kilometers. Now, some speakers at the hearing referred to the new Canada-U.S. Migration Pact announced last week while U.S. President Joe Biden was in Ottawa and suggested it benefited Canada more than the U.S. Others and Democrats referred to it as a good example of cooperation between two friendly countries. Now, let me put this in perspective. I cross the border very often. The border in, like what they call Holton, Woodstock area, usually there's between a handful and maybe 1 to 2 dozen agents there on a regular basis. That's a big port of entry. And in the course of a week, you might see upwards of 500 to 1,000 cars and other requests, like, 100, 150 a day. Before it was bigger. It was 5,000 to 10,000. But with COVID and, the passport requirements has really changed. But where the port of entry becomes a problem is Ontario and Quebec. You saw what happened with Kanesatake. The people